Welcome to the presentation of Polarion software about Agile requirements management from your requirements. My name is Daniel Morris. Hopefully everybody can hear me. This session will be recorded just for your information. On the right you will have a chat panel and a Q&A panel where you can ask questions, and these questions will be answered by some colleagues of mine. Just first of all, I will tell you something about Polarion, what is Polarion, and after that I will show you a demonstration of our tool. This is the agenda for today. First we've got our Polarion platform, what is Polarion, which techniques are used in Polarion. After this we've got our demonstration and our Q&A session at last. You can ask the questions every time you want to. The colleagues of mine will give you an answer, and sometimes I will have a look which questions were asked. First of all, we've got three types of licenses in Polarion. Polarion requirements, which will be covered today. Polarion ALM, which is where it's the full functionality of our product, where you can plan your requirements, you can use your requirements, test cases, and everything else. And you've got Polarion Track and Wiki, which is our bug tracker, where you can insert bugs and work with them. What is Polarion? Our advantage, or we think it's our advantage, is we've built directly an ALM tool. Other companies had a requirement management tool, a change management tool, and a test management tool, and put them together in a suite and called it an ALM tool. We built directly an ALM tool, which has the advantage that it's really easy. They are connected very easy. It's really easy to add some features, and you don't have any problems with connecting the tools. Then Polarion is 100% web-based, so you only need a web browser, so you don't need to install anything on your client. You need a Firefox or an Internet Explorer. And another thing is Polarion has an open architecture, so you can easily add some extensions to Polarion. You can use web services. We've got an open API, and Polarion is XML-based. And we cover, with this Eclipse framework, a lot of options. You can use project management, you can cover requirement management, task management, release management, build management, and so on. And Polarion uses Subversion as, let's say, a database. So everything which is stored in Polarion is stored in Subversion. So you track every change, and you cannot change anything without storing to Subversion. So you know and have a complete history of all your changes. So about Polarion, you will see in my demonstration at a moment, we've got the Polarion live docs, which are nearly like Word. You will see in a moment, you can easily add user stories, requirements, test cases, and so on, and work with them. So hopefully you won't need Word anymore if you're using Microsoft Word at the moment, or any other tools. Then there's the traceability. We've got a full traceability from requirements to source code. So everything is linked together and connected, and so you know all the impact if something is changed because of this traceability. A lot of people use this for audit trials and can easily work with it. A workflow is behind each work item, so you can lead the people what they're capable to do. So they cannot jump from the project, so they cannot open a closed work, let's say a defect, or a user story if they want to. Maybe they need a special role for this. Then there's a web-based collaboration. I already said it's 100% web-based. So you don't, if you're going to a colleague and you want to tell him something, you can open his web browser, you can connect to your Polarion, and can show him the changes you made. And the test management is available in Polarion requirements. So you can link your test cases to your requirements or user stories for the traceability. But all of this I will show you in a moment in the live demonstration. And we've got about more than 100 applications and extensions on our Polarion POP portal, so it's configurable. You can easily add some new functions to Polarion with this open API or the web services. Well, now in this live demo, I will show you Polarion, how you create and manage user stories with Polarion Live Docs, what is the integration with Microsoft Office, our so-called Word round trip. I'll show you how you can plan your user stories for releases or backlogs. You can reuse some user stories or reuse documents or use templates. How you link test cases to user stories. And I'll show you some traceability and impact analysis. Let's go to the live demonstration. This is Polarian. I will close it. So that's Polarian. I've already told you in the Firefox, so in a web browser. So the advantage I already told you, you can easily connect to your Polarian from everywhere you want to. You have got a web browser. On the right side, this is a wiki page where some information is stored, and these wiki pages are meant to let your user through your project. Because maybe you've got some users which are only working in Polarian for every month, and they don't need to know how Polarian, where the documents are stored. They can be led through this wiki pages so that they only have to click on this link and they will jump directly in their working space. On the left, we've got our navigation panel where you can find your documents. For example, a document I will show you in a moment, you can go on Documents, Specification, and this PBE library, and this will be the document. There is a nice feature, maybe you already know from Microsoft. If I want to search for a program or a document or something like this, for example, Microsoft Word. In the past, I've opened this button and say all programs, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word, and with Windows 7, you will write Word and you will already get some examples. So there you can choose Microsoft Word. In Polarian, you've got the same thing. Maybe if you're writing spec, you will get some examples where the word spec is in it. So we've got our product specification and our specification space. Or maybe we will search in work items. I will tell you in a moment what work items are. Or you got a search, and this is a full text search. You can search for everything. For example, I will try test. And now it's searching for the word test in work items, documents, and wiki pages. And it's not only searching for title or description, it's searching for each attribute which is in Polarian. So let's tell you something. What is a work item, what are documents, and what are wikis? A work item is every work you can have in your company. These are some example work items: defect, requirements, task, test case, change request, and user stories. But you can define these work items like you want to. So if you have got some other work items, you can easily add them. Let's have a look for user stories. So there is the work online services. You've got some online services with attributes like an assignee or the status. That's an example for the workflow. There's a workflow behind that, so you can easily, the user cannot jump in Polarian. So if, for example, a user story is closed, only a special role maybe can reopen it. Then you've got a category, you've got some time points where or a release we will see tonight. You've got a description where you can add a description. You've got some comments, maybe I will make it bigger. You've got some comments where you can collaborate with your project members. I will show you this. Your work records where you can store all the work you've done on this work item. The approvals, so you can say someone has to approve these work items. You can add revisions, so you can add source code to your work items. Maybe for an example, how you add the source code, how this user story is developed. You can link some work items. I will show you how you can link a test case to your user stories. You can add hyperlinks to the website maybe, or to your repository, so you can link to documents in your repository. You can add some attachments like pictures or something like that. I will show you in a moment. You can vote for a work item, so that you can say to your project manager, oh, I like this user story or this requirement, and you can add yourself as a watcher. So if you're really interested in this work item, you will add yourself as a watcher, and if any changes are made, you will get an email or a message that this work item changed. these work items are fully customizable. So for example, if I go to requirements, they look a little bit different. So you've got another custom fields like target release and requirement type. You've got time points, but most of it looks like the same. Or some test cases which have other attributes like test run, test comment, and retest. So you don't need to change your process to Polarian if you are using Polarian. You can change Polarian to your processes, so no problem to customize these work items. So let's go back to our home link, and then I show you what are our live docs. For example, I'll show you this document, and as you can see, this document nearly looks like Microsoft Word. You've got some headings, you've got a table of content, and here is the text. And here you can see, okay, here are some marks, and these are work items. I will open this here on the left, and as you can see on the icon, oh, maybe this is a user story. So you can easily write your specification document in Polarian. For example, let's take this one, mark book as favorite, and I want to add a user story. I press enter, say okay, share a book, and a description. Okay, a user must be able to share a book on Facebook, and after I save it, this is a user story too. So it's really easy to add these work items to Polarian. And if you say, okay, this share as book is a refinement of Marcus' book, you can go in this work item, press the tab button, and now this will be a child of this Marcus book. I'll open the properties panel on the right, and as you can see, this work item is a parent of the sharer's book. And if I go to the share a book, I will have the link as well in here. Another thing in a document, maybe you say, okay, this user statistics and this configure contact information are wrong at this place. You can, by pressing Ctrl X, you can cut them and add them below. So you can easily change the view of this document and say, okay, maybe this user stories should be down here, and or this user stories should be here. It's really easy to change this document. Another thing is, it doesn't matter if you're working in this document or in this table view. So as you can see in this table view, you've got the headings and the user stories as well. And here's our share a book. And now, for example, I can add a screenshot. Say, okay, let's take this, for example, and say, okay, I will add this to the description. Say, paste the link. I paste it from clipboard. Save it. Now you've got the screenshot in this work item. And as I already told you, this screenshot is available in the attachments of the work item too. And now if you have to go back to your document and search for this user story, you can go press edit in document, and it will jump directly in the document. And as you can see, it doesn't matter if you make the changes in the document or in the table view. It depends on why or where do you want to work on. And here you've got the same attributes. You can add some attributes if you want to change them in a document, but you can change them in a document or in a table view. Another thing in Polarian is an import. So let's go back to our home and to specification. Why do you need an import? Maybe you've got some existing documents and you want to archive them, or some documents which are provided by partners. So a specification document or from a division, other division doesn't use Polarian. You've got an easy way to import this document to Polarian so that you can work on them. I'll show you the document. So it's an e-library specification, and here is a Word document which has some heading and a header. We've got a table of content, we've got an introduction and free text, and you've got tables, and here are maybe some requirements. And these requirements or user stories, it doesn't matter, you can add to Polarian. So you go to your import, and here's another wiki page. where you can see, okay, you've got 16 work items which are in the workflow status draft, 10 are reviewed, 2 are approved, and 0 are rejected. And now I want to import my document. And I say, okay, I want to import it as a user story, and these types of configurations you can save. So if you got about 50 documents and you want to import them, you can, at first, you can set up this filter, save the filter, how you want to import them, and can easily import the last 50 documents as well, without any work. So I will take my document, the e-library, open it. So and now it is not yet imported because I want to set up this filter. And this filter is fully customizable, so you can easily say for what you want to, what are you searching for. So now I've got user stories, but maybe I want to import requirements or test cases. You can say, okay, let's import user stories. And now Polarion has already defined some sentences as user stories, as you can see on this icon here. And how did Polarion do that? It searched for the words must or should. But maybe you say, okay, my text isn't written like this way, so you're searching for maybe the style. So let's say I'm only searching for heading 2, for the style heading 2. I press preview, and as you can see, all the heading 2 items are displayed as user stories now. And you've got a lot of options. Maybe you use this regular expressions. Maybe in your specification document, all your requirements are tagged with a regular expression rec or another regular expression. So you can say, okay, search for this regular expression. So it's very easy to set up this filter. And we always tell the customer it's very easy and you can very quick cover about 80 till 90% of your work items. You can try to get all the 100% of the document, that all user stories are covered, but then maybe you've got a problem, you're working 10 hours on the filter, and at the end you only work on the document for about 2 hours. Then you worked too much hours on the filter, so we tell the customer, just cover these 80-90%, and the rest of it you can do by editing the document in Polarion, like I already showed you, and I'll show you in a moment. So let's say we are searching for the words must or should. So okay, so these work items or these user stories are recognized, and now we say, okay, on this gray border you see, okay, only this sentence is part of the user story. Maybe you want this table as well in the user story, or these bullet points. So you can select these advanced options, say include next paragraph in work item description, and you say, okay, I want tables and list items, if it's a table or a list item as well. So if I press preview, you can see the table and the bullet points are in the user story as well. So you can set up this filter and set maybe some attributes directly. Say, okay, set the attribute severity directly. If the word must is in a sentence, you set it to must have, or if should is available in a sentence, the severity should be should have. So you can import attributes as well. So let's import the document to Polarion. Let's say we've covered 80% of our requirements or user stories. And now I'll just have a look if some questions are in it. Okay, we've got one question, if we can link test cases to use cases or user stories. I will show you in a moment. This is possible, there's no problem. Another question is which Office version is supported, and that's the Office version from Office 2007 and higher, because we need this docx format for the import and for the round trip. So what is the round trip? First of all, I will show you, you've got this imported document, and you can easily add in the imported document some user stories as well, as I already shown you. So let's say I'll add a user story. A login should be case sensitive, and if I save it, you've got a new user story in this document as well. And this document is stored in the specification area, like our e-library document I've already showed you. And you can set this hierarchical as well and change it in table view like the other document. You can import old documents, or maybe you create some new documents in Polarian and you can easily change them in here. And most of these customers tell us that this table view, they recognize it because it's nearly like Microsoft Outlook. You've got your emails in here and a preview of these emails below. Like this document, most of the people say, oh, it's nearly like Microsoft Word. So now let's say we've got this document, we've got it from a customer, and he wants to review it, and he hasn't got Polarian. There is a function which is called Word Roundtrip. So you can say, okay, I want this document, I want to export this document, and I want to send it to a customer. And now you've got some options. This document will be a read-only, or not a read-only document, it will be locked. So you cannot edit or change something. Only the things you are allowing the customer can be changed. So you've got some options. You've got the review option, where a customer can only add some comments to the document in Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word. You've got a prioritization mode, where you can add comments as well, and edit some attributes, like the severity attribute. So the customer can edit the severity in Microsoft Word. The ID is not clickable, because you may not change an ID in Microsoft Word, otherwise you will get some conflicts if you change your ID and re-import it. And the collaboration mode, where you can, this is meant for offline working, so if you're going by train or by an aeroplane to the customer, you can get your document by collaboration mode, and then you may edit the document, the description and the title, but you have to look out for this, because if you give something like this to a customer, you can get conflict if you change this work item in Polarian and he is changing it in a document. So let's export this in prioritization mode and say, okay, he may change the severity. And now I get the new document, and as you can see, it nearly looks like the old document we had before. It has the header from the customer, it has the heading, and after I update this, the table of contents. It has the introduction and pretext and the picture we had before. And here we've got our user stories. And the user stories are not editable. Only the attribute, the severity, is changeable. So let's say here our login should be case sensitive. This is a must-have, and this is a must-have, this is a must-have. So the customer can go through the document and change the attributes. Or he says, okay, this one, I want to add a comment, say, okay, it has to be case sensitive, and you should use numbers as well for the password or for the login. So the customer can easily go through the document, says, okay, this user story or requirement is good for me, this is not good, this is a should have, this is a must have, this is a will not have, and after he is ready, he can save it. Okay, I'll save it on the desktop, say, okay, it's an export, I'll save it, and then because of that, it's called round trip. You get it back from your customer, and you say, okay, let's re-import the changes. Then you choose the change document, the export, say okay. You can say override conflict. Well, you shouldn't override conflict, but you've got the possibility if you If you're sure that the changes are okay, you can say, okay, override these conflicts. Or maybe you say, okay, I allowed the customer to change the severity or some attributes, but now I thought about that and I think they shouldn't edit some attributes. You can say, okay, I just want to input the comments. Let's say, okay, I want the comments and the changes as well. Let's say start, and now it's successful and the changes are in here. Like, as you can see, we've got here our comments, use numbers as well, and we've got our changes. But now you will say, how can you see what is changed? Now I know which attributes are changed because I changed them. But they've got a function which is called, which is part of the history. You can compare two documents and have a look what changes were made. So if you go on this button, you see all the changes which were made in the two document views. So you change from should have to must have, here from should have to must have, and here. And this is only on the document, but if you want to know what changes were made in the work items, you can click on work items, and you've got a list of all the work items which were changed. So here you've got this user story where the severity was changed, this where the severity was changed, and here is a comment added. And if we have a look on the comment is made by Daniel Morris, but I'm logged in as the system administrator. So the comment or the user which is used is the office user. So if you got some comments from more than one customer or from some different people at the customer's office, you will have the comments, the name of the man or woman who made the comment in here. So I can reply on it and say, okay, save it, and the answer is by the system administrator. So you've got a type of collaboration with this. So you can answer all the questions and maybe re-export the document another time and give it to the customer and say, okay, I made these changes, are they okay for you? And you can use this round trip more than one time. So let's have a look for maybe some questions. We've got another question. If it's possible to work with more than one user on a document, this is no problem. So if someone is editing maybe this user story and someone is editing this user story, there won't be a problem because the smallest entity in Polarion is the work item. The document is only the container. So if someone is changing something on this user story and someone is changing this, there won't be a problem. If both people are changing something on the same user story, the first one who says that there is no problem, the second one will be informed that there were changes made, and he has to have a look what the changes are, and he has to have a look if his changes or the changes from the other colleague should be displayed in this work item. So that's about Polarion documents, how you can edit them, how you can add some user stories. There are not only user stories, they can be requirements or test cases imported and added as well. So it doesn't matter which type of work item it is. And the work item, I've already said, you can add work items like you want to if you've got maybe different work in your company. So now we've got a list of user stories in Polarion. Here's our login should be case sensitive. And there was a question, how can you link these type of user stories or work items to test cases? You can simply copy the ID of this user story, say, okay, which test case covers this? And we say, okay, maybe this test case covers our user story. And you go in the test case and say, okay, I'll add a linked work item which verifies our user story, and we add the ID in here. And if I save it, the login should be case sensitives added. You can link through more than one project. So if you've got your test cases in another project, you can easily add the link. The project is stored in here as well. So if you've got maybe a project with test cases and a project with user stories, you can easily link between different projects. And you can see this link. I will show you in a moment. First, I'll show you how can, for example, this user story can be set for a release. You've got an attribute, here for example target release, and we say, okay, this login should be case sensitive, should be in release version 1. If I save it, I can go to our releases page, and here you got the release page. So you can, and here you can choose, okay, which version do you want to see? Do you want to see version 1, version 0.9, or all the unplanned work items? We want to see all user stories which are planned for version 1. So this is our backlog for version 1. We've got 16 planned user stories, 9 of them are accepted, 3 are implemented, and 3 are verified. Here we've got a nice view, how our progress is, when will we be ready with our release version 1. So this will be, because we are not working on this at the moment, there will be, we need some time, how the release prediction is, because of the last sprint velocity, how our release prediction for the past values is, and so on. And here you've got a list of all user stories which are planned for version 1. And as you can see, we've got our login should be case sensitive in here as well, which is on status draft, which has the severity must have, and at the moment it's not assigned to a time point. So you can plan your user stories for some releases. Another thing where you can see, or you want to see, we've imported now user stories, you need this traceability. You need to know which user stories are covered by test cases. And so you've got this traceability table, that's another wiki page, and here you've got all of our user stories, and as you can see, some of them are linked to test cases, some test cases have defects, and why do you need this type of linking? Well, you need to know what impact changes have. So if you change a user story, what happens to this test case? Maybe you have to edit the test case as well. Or you need to know which test cases are available for a user story. And at the end, you need to guarantee that every user story will be covered by a test case. Otherwise, if you implement a user story and it is not tested, the product in the end, I think it will be, can be crashed. So let's have a look. Do we have our login should be case sensitive here? Well, this is here as well. And another thing, you can say, okay, I want to filter them. I only want the user stories for target release 1. And if I press refresh, you see you only got the user stories which are planned for target release 1. Like our login should be case sensitive. Another thing where you can see how they are linked or what is linked is in our work item table view. You can set this to tree view and say, okay, let's search for this and what work items are linked together. Let's have a look, maybe we'll find. Here's our login should be case sensitive. It has got a parent. We've set this user story and a test case which is connected to the login should be case sensitive. So you've got the traceability in here as well, and in the work item itself too. They can see, okay, a test case is linked to this. But now, what happens if you change this user story? If you change this user story, the test manager, he has to get a message that it's that the user story is changed. So for example, we were asked to use numbers as well. So I add this to the description and say login should be case sensitive and you should use numbers as well. And I set the suspect. What is a suspect? A suspect is a function in Polarion which automatically sends a message to the test manager or sends a mark that our test case has a suspect link. So as you can see here, we've got something here that that the test case is suspect. So now the test manager knows, okay, the user story has changed, and maybe we have to change our test case as well. But now the problem is, how can the test manager, how can he know what changes were made? There you've got the history in Polarion. So if you go on work item, say history, you can see all the changes which were made on this work item. So we have linked the work item, which changed the severity, added this comment use numbers as well. We've set the target release to version 1. And here's the last change, which made our suspect link. And you should use numbers as well. So this is added. So then the test manager has seen, okay, that are the changes, and he can go in a test case and says, okay, it doesn't matter for my test case. The test case covered this as well. So you can say, okay, I'll put this suspect, I'll switch it off, because my test case is still valid for the user story. So I say okay. And now, as you can see, the suspect link is gone, and the test will full cover this user story. For a moment, I will have a look for some questions maybe. We've got a question which SCM could connect to it. You can, Polarion itself uses Subversion, and you can connect Subversion and Git. And if you've got another tool, you can we can configure it by an adapter. So let's have a look. Is there another question? No, I think this is for the moment. So now another thing can be, maybe you've got a bunch of templates, some documents which have a style you always want to use in your project. So if you're writing a new specification document, you don't want to start with an empty document. Maybe you want some introduction and some headings. You can make a document library, because we've got it here, and you say, okay, here are, for example, some documents we want to use in more than one project. We want to reuse it. So, for example, I'll take this user requirements here, say okay, that's a document which has some introduction, some headings, some scope, some references, and maybe already some work items in here. Now we've got a requirement in here, and let's say we want to use this document in our eLibrary project as well. So we say reuse document, and say, okay, the new document should be user requirements as well. We take our eLibrary project. It should be stored in our specification area. And we don't want to link it to the original document, because the original document is in the document library. And all the outgoing work items links, so the work items which are in here, shouldn't have any links to other work items if it's in our project, because we want a new standalone document. And if I press OK, I will jump directly to the eLibrary project and to our specification. And now we've got our user requirement document in here as well. And now you can simply edit this document. Say, okay, this here is a requirement as well, or maybe these are two requirements. You simply press enter, and now you've got 2 requirements extra. And this can be user stories as well. You can configure it what type of work items should be in a document. So maybe you want some user stories too, you can add them here. So let's have a look if we've got any questions. Oh, someone has lost audio. Did all of you, can you hear me? Maybe someone is sending me a message in the chat. Is it just one who lost audio, or did everyone lost the audio? Okay, perfect. Most of you can hear me. Okay, I think we're nearly clear and ready, out of time. Oh, one thing I didn't show you yet, it's how the collaboration is done. Oh, so I'm sorry, but some of you lost the connection to the audio broadcast. I'll send you a message, rejoin. Maybe you try to rejoin. Okay. Yeah, I've got some messages back up now. So let's go on. Last thing I want to show you is the collaboration in Polarium. How can you, I think this is part in project management which is really important, the communication. You can communicate in Polarium, so let's go back to our user stories and say this login should be case sensitive. How can you communicate? You can communicate with these comments. And why do you need this? If you've got slow communication, it can lead to a project delay. So for example, you don't know who are the right stakeholders, and you only send an email to about 4 people and not to all the 5 who should know about some changes. And so one of the stakeholders doesn't know the actual status of the project. And if the next project meeting is, the 4 of them know the actual status, and the 5th doesn't know, he has got the problem. So you need to guarantee that everyone gets the information that some changes were made. And why should you use these comments? Because you should use one central communication platform. Because if maybe a developer A and developer B are talking about the changes in Skype, and some of them are talking in ICQ, some of them by email, and the project manager is asking, why did you make the changes? You say, okay, one moment, I have to search. You search in emails, you search in ICQ, you search in Skype, and then you've got, and then you don't find it. So you have to choose one communication platform. And maybe you can say, okay, let's only take email, but then you don't have the work item connected to the email, because you have to look, okay, we are talking about this login should be case sensitive. Where is it in Polarium or wherever? And you have to search for it. So it will be easier if you do this in Polarium. You can create comments, say, okay, I'll try the same example. I will ask use numbers as well. And now here you can see, okay, it's the system administrator asks this question, use numbers as well, at what date and what time. And maybe you can log in by another user and say, okay, I will reply. I say, yes, you can. And so you've got something like a Twitter in here, that you can ask questions and answer them. And now you have to be notified that maybe a comment or some changes were made. And there you've got a function in Polarium. You can configure yourself some email notifications. For example, now here, this login should be case sensitive. I prepared this email. You've got, here is the question, use numbers as well by the system administrator, and you don't see the whole work item. You only see the changes of this work item. And you get the answer as well. You've got here, okay, yes you can. So you are notified about any changes which are made in Polarion. And you can configure when these notifications should be sent. So this is collaboration in Polarion. Let's have a look for questions. Okay, here's someone wants to know a little bit more about the history. If you can see the changes and if you can see the old status of a work item. This is no problem too. If I go back to my example, the login should be case sensitive. I press on history. I see all the changes which were made. So I see the added comments as well. Here the use numbers as well. And then yes, you can. And if you want to see an old status or you need to show the old status, you can click on this revision number and you see the work item on this stage. So as you can see, here are no comments at the moment. So, and if you go back to show current, you see, okay, the comments are back. I see we've got another question. How do you integrate requirements with Eclipse? We've got an extension, an Eclipse extension, and you can edit and change work items in there too, so that developers can change it in their Eclipse platform. Maybe some other questions. If we could show the traceability from requirement to source code. Well, let's do this. So I'll take an example. Let's say, okay, we've got our user stories. I copy the ID like I did with the linking. And now I want to add some source code for this user story. I go to my repository. This is an example repository. I say, okay, this is in Hello World. Maybe some of you know. And I add something. I'll say, okay, I'll add this Hello World. Say I'll save it. Commit it. And now I have to send a commit message. And most of the developers don't know what they have to type in here. And so you can, for example, if you don't know what to type in there, you can send the ID of the work item, and if I press enter, okay, it's committed. Go back to Polarion, and if I refresh my work items, the source code should be connected here. So we can see, okay, here's a linked revision. If I press on it, I can see, okay, a Hello World file is committed. And if I click on it, I can directly see in Polarion which changes were made. So the Hello World was added. So you can see, if you go back in here and say, okay, let's go back to the table view. We want a tree view, include commits. You see the commit messages or the source code is linked to the work items as well. And so you've got a full traceability for all of this. Okay, here's another question. Can we do the round trip with Excel like you showed with Word? Yes, we've got a Excel round trip as well, and we've got an Excel import. That's no problem. Let's have a look. We've got another question. Okay. Okay, let's get back to the presentation. I think we are nearly ready. So in our live demo, we have seen how you can create and manage user stories with Polarion Live Docs. We've seen the integration with Microsoft Office. I've showed you with the Word round trip, but you can do this by Excel as well. We have seen how you can plan the user stories to releases or backlogs. How we can reuse documents and some work items which are in there, like user stories, test case requirements. How can you link test cases to user stories? And you've got the traceability and impact analyze. You've got the impact analyzed by the suspect option. What are the next steps? The next steps could be you can download a 30-day free trial on our website. You can try it live on our servers. Maybe you want to request a proof of concept, or you watch some other demonstrations. We've got a bunch of demonstrations in the next week, like Application Lifecycle Management 2, where you can see how you plan with the Scrum board and how you plan the whole Agile way with live plans. So if you don't have any question, I'll have a look. I say that's it for today. We've got a question, is there a limit or restriction on type of work items? No, there's no limit. You can add the work items like you want to. Okay. I will wait just a moment if you've got any questions. Otherwise, I will say thank you very much for your attention. If you've got another question, additional questions, feel free to send us an email. And I wish you a nice evening or a nice day. Depends on where you're located. Thank you very much.